So is it possible to ease tensions on the Korean peninsula? And how real are these threats? For more, Sung-yoon Lee is joining us. He's the Kim-Koo Korea Foundation professor and assistant professor at Tufts University in Massachusetts. Welcome to our broadcast. Tell us about the significance of the timing of this military parade that took place in Pyongyang less than just 24 hours ago.
The timing is everything in the North Korean calendar. April 15th, the birthday of the nation's founder and the grandfather of the current leader, is simply the most important national holiday. It's a day on which children receive goodies, candies, cookies. Average North Korean families receive extra ration of food, cooking oil, alcohol, and so forth. So it's a happy day. And in the past, North Korea has marked this day with pomp and ceremony. In 1969, North Korean jets shot and blew up a U.S. spy plane, killing all 31 servicemen on board. However, I think the latest celebrations on April 15th was simply putting the U.S. on notice that North Korea has ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, with which North Korea can nuke a major U.S. city. So that message has been sent.
So do you think the underlying tension between the U.S. and North Korea overshadowed the event in any way at all?
Well, the truth is, the United States, since the end of the Korean War in 1953, has never responded to North Korean attacks, lethal attacks against Americans and South Koreans, with a military response. And the reasons are the U.S. does not want to escalate, South Korea does not want to escalate. The U.S. and South Korea have too much on the line, too much to lose in the case of another war in the Korean peninsula. So North Korea assumes that even a nuclear test, say on Easter Sunday, just a few hours from now, probably will lead only to rhetorical condemnation and no military action.
What's the likelihood of the U.S. or Pyongyang actually launching an attack?
There's always the risk of miscalculation, and there's always a time for a first, of course. So danger is there, especially when both sides are on a rhetorical bluster barrage, as they have been on. However, at the same time, we have had de facto peace in the Korean peninsula since the end of the Korean War. So I think it's far more likely that self-restraint will be exercised. However, the growing North Korean nuclear and missile threat, this is no joke. You know, the era of procrastination and half measures is over now, and we are entering a period of consequences. I think that's the view taken by the Trump administration as the vice president visits South Korea in a few hours.
Beautiful celebration and parade there, by the way, today. But tell us a little bit more about China's role in this and what China could be doing to ease tensions, if anything, between the U.S. and the DPRK.
There are several constants in this quarter-century-old North Korean nuclear saga. China's position is always to counsel patience, call for dialogue, for God's sake, no war, and that position is quite sensible, eminently sensible and understandable. At the same time, we know that nation-states have different national interests. China does not feel pressured by a tiny North Korea that's dependent on China with perhaps 10 or 20 nukes. So China does not want to destabilize North Korea. And the United States is now taking the belated view that to get China on board, perhaps the U.S. should sanction not only North Korean entities, but Chinese partners, financial sanctions, which have been useful in getting Iran back to the negotiating table. So I think that's the direction that the new Trump administration is moving in, going after North Korea's illicit activities and perhaps also blocking Chinese entities.
And what about Japan? Let's bring Japan in this and what role it plays.
Well, Japan's quite nervous because Japan is quite vulnerable to North Korean conventional missile attacks. And Japan colonized the entire Korean peninsula for much of the first half of the 20th century. And Kim Il-sung, the founder's exploits, his revolutionary credentials are based on his small-time anti-Japanese guerrilla activities in the 1930s and 1940s. So Japan is public enemy number 2, the second most important enemy to North Korea, next only to the United States. So Japan, understandably, is quite nervous.
Well, Sung-yoon Lee, thank you so much for your insight.